Welcome to the deep dive. You probably remember those chaotic, sudden shifts to online learning back in 2020. For so many of us, it felt like being thrown into the deep end of the future, ready or not. And it just raises huge question, where is education really heading? So today, that's what we're diving into, the evolving roles of online learning versus, well, the enduring strengths of traditional
Faz guapa.
classrooms. Our mission here to try and figure out what truly enriches minds and sparks curiosity in this new landscape. So whether you're a student, a parent, an educator, or just plain curious, this deep dive is definitely for you. We'll be pulling from research, data, real-world examples you've shared, comparing those virtual classrooms with, the familiar brick-and-mortar schools.
It's a really fascinating journey, especially when you think about how deeply ingrained the traditional classroom has been. For centuries, really. That picture, the teacher at the front, students in rows, all learning together in one physical space. It's basically a universal symbol for education, isn't it?
Absolutely. It feels like the bedrock, the foundation. But, even before screens sort of took over everything, the idea of learning outside a single room was already starting to form, wasn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, you saw universities back in the 1800s offering correspondence courses
Mm.
by mail. Then fast forward to the 20th century, you had lessons broadcast on radio, even TV. But the internet, well, obviously that was the real game changer.
Hmm.
By the 90s and 2000s, you started seeing the first web-based courses pop up, even some fully online universities. It was kind of laying the groundwork quietly for something much bigger.
And then, bam, the world hits. Fast forward in 2020, the pandemic forces schools, universities everywhere to switch to remote learning almost overnight. It wasn't gradual. It was just this dramatic, totally unplanned shakeup.
A massive shakeup. And the data from that time, it's really striking. By the 2021-22 school year, over half, 54% of U.S. college students had taken at least one online class. That's roughly double what it was just a decade earlier. And in K-12, pretty much every single district rolled out some kind of online learning. Now, on one hand, it kept things going, right? You could have a student in, say, rural Montana accessing the same advanced science class as someone in Miami through an online lecture. The reach was, well, incredible.
Okay, but there's a but coming. I feel it.
There is. The public data also painted a pretty worrying picture. In 2022, 9-year-old students across the U.S. scored 5 points lower in reading and 7 points lower in math compared to 2020. Those were the steepest drops ever recorded. Ever.
Wow. So if online learning kept the lights on, educationally speaking, what do those plummeting scores really tell us?
Well, it strongly suggests widespread learning loss, no doubt about it. The pandemic really acted as this huge stress test for online education. It showed us very clearly both its immense potential for access to also its significant pitfalls. Consistency, engagement, equitable outcomes. It gave us a mountain of evidence on what works and what doesn't. And maybe one of the most sobering takeaways, as lots of educators would tell you, is that the sudden shift just broke something fundamental about how we learn together, especially for the younger kids.
That's a really crucial insight. It wasn't just flipping a switch, was it? Okay, so despite that huge growth in tech solutions, that undeniable convenience, the traditional classroom model, it still holds this immense, maybe irreplaceable value. Let's unpack that. What are the enduring strengths of that brick and mortar experience? What deep human needs does it meet?
That's the core question, isn't it? And what we hear over and over is that the traditional classroom, it just excels at fostering rich social interaction and providing that immediate nuanced guidance. Think about it. A teacher sees a student looking confused or excited just from their body language, right? And they can adjust right there, on the spot. Classmates can debate, collaborate, learn from each other face to face, and kids learn so much from those subtle social cues. Eye contact, tone of voice, shared laughter, things that just don't transmit the same way through a screen. Many educators stress that these shared in-person experiences teach vital social and emotional skills, stuff that goes way beyond academic facts.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. There's just something about the human connection, the immediacy that tech can't quite replicate yet.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Even just casual chats in the hallway or at lunch, they build trust, mentorship. Then you've got the structured routine.
Oh.
Bell schedules, fixed class periods, daily rituals. That provides a really reliable framework that's super important for young learners. And honestly, it can be a lifeline for students facing instability at home. And you absolutely can't forget hands-on learning. Science labs, art studios, music rooms, gyms, sports fields. These places allow for experiments, activities that involve touch, movement, dissecting a frog, building a model bridge, playing in a band. Those are sensory, collaborative experiences that are just incredibly hard to do virtually.
And beyond the purely academic, there's that powerful community piece too, right?
Oh, definitely. Traditions like field trips, school plays, sports games, holiday events, they build this profound sense of belonging. Being part of a school community, it teaches teamwork, respect, even civic responsibility. UNESCO points out that schooling isn't just about facts, it's also about respect for fundamental freedoms and understanding between people. In a classroom, students are like citizens of a mini society. They learn to navigate differences, develop empathy, build social skills, all in person. So yeah, the key takeaway, brick and mortar schools are really good at fostering personal growth, social cohesion, and providing that stable, structured environment. They nurture minds through human interaction, peer learning, in ways that are just very hard to digitize.
Okay, so that's a really strong case for the traditional model. But flipping the coin, online learning opens up this whole other universe. Freedoms, innovations, things the traditional model just can't offer. Where does it really shine?
Accessibility. That's the biggest one, by far. High-quality courses are literally a click away, doesn't matter where you live. So that means a kid in a remote town can now access the same advanced math or science class as a student in a big city. Or think about a talented artist in a small village. Maybe they can take a master class from a world-renowned sculptor on the other side of the planet. That kind of reach. It's revolutionary.
And that flexibility, right? Being able to learn on your own terms, that must be a total game changer for so many people.
Oh, absolutely. Students can learn at their own pace, on their own schedule. Missed a lesson, just watch the recording later, no big deal. And the sheer range of courses available online is just astonishing. Thousands of classes worldwide. Whether you need advanced calculus, computer programming, creative writing, niche foreign languages, students can find specialized courses that might just not be offered locally. Then there's all the tech-enhanced learning. Digital tools make lessons, interactive videos, quizzes, games. AI, artificial intelligence, that's starting to personalize lessons. Like an AI tutor could give easier problems to a student who's struggling, or maybe challenge an advanced learner with tougher questions, adapting in real time. And VR, virtual reality, that can take students on these incredibly immersive field trips, explore a 3D cell, tour the International Space Station, all from their desk.
The potential there for truly personalized, immersive experiences sounds incredible. But it also scales up, doesn't it? It's not just one-on-one.
It absolutely scales. Online programs can reach vast numbers of students simultaneously, which can potentially bring down costs. Just for perspective, the global e-learning market was something like $227 billion in 2023. And it's growing fast. In the U.S. alone, online higher ed was projected at, what, $94 billion by 2025, with maybe 88 million users by 2029? These numbers are huge. They reflect massive demand and investment. It really does democratize access in a way. One expert compared it to a learning superhighway, letting one great teacher reach hundreds, maybe thousands, far beyond their own town. And for the student, it fosters independence. A shy student might feel more comfortable posting on a forum than speaking up in class. A quick learner can zoom ahead. That control over time and pace, being able to pause, rewind, even watch at double speed, that can really boost confidence and, importantly, curiosity.
So it's that global reach and the deep personalization that really fuels curiosity. Letting learners chase passions like astrophysics or take that international art class, it connects them to resources that just weren't available before, really opening up new worlds.
Okay, this all sounds incredibly promising on the online side, but as we know, neither approach is perfect. Let's tackle the significant challenges that come with each, because understanding the hurdles is pretty key to overcoming them, right?
That's a critical point, absolutely. For online learning, the biggest hurdle still is the digital divide. Not every student has a reliable device or stable internet. It's easy to forget that. During the pandemic, researchers estimated maybe 500 million students worldwide lack sufficient online access. 500 million. Even here in the U.S., many low-income families really struggled. I remember one principal saying, poor internet, lack of laptops, hotspots, instability at home. These make online learning just incredibly difficult for some kids. It's a stark reminder that access isn't just having the tech, it's having reliable, consistent infrastructure. Right. And even when they do have the tech, there's still that human element, the engagement factor isn't there.
Well, definitely. Teachers everywhere talked about Zoom fatigue. Just staring at a screen all day is exhausting for everyone involved. And studies back that up. Attention spans seem to shrink. Engagement often dropped off in online classes. You mentioned that controlled study at the U.S. Military Academy, where cadets in an online economics class got significantly lower grades than those in the identical in-person sections. What's really sobering about that is, if highly disciplined West Point cadets struggled online, what does that mean for the average student in a less structured environment? It suggests maybe that implicit social contract of being physically present is just as important as the explicit instruction for keeping people focused. And for young kids, it's particularly tough. Developmental experts warn that elementary students really need that hands-on support, those social cues that virtual classes just struggle to provide. Researchers like June Ahn noted a clear negative impact on student achievement when K-12 students moved to online formats. Yeah. By fall 2021, many schools were reporting half their students were behind grade level, largely blamed on that pandemic learning loss.
Okay, so online learning clearly has its drawbacks, but traditional schools aren't perfect either, are they? They have their own limitations.
That's absolutely right. Traditional classrooms can get crowded. Makes it hard for one teacher to give enough individual attention. If a student misses school, catching up can be really tough without dedicated support systems. Schools are also vulnerable to disruptions, closures for weather, transport problems, public health scares, as we saw. And let's be honest, despite teachers' best efforts, instruction can sometimes feel a bit one-size-fits-all. That can limit personalization for kids who are way ahead and need more challenge, or those who are struggling and need extra help outside the main lesson.
So when we dig into the research on actual outcomes, what does it really tell us? Is one method clearly better, or is it, as usual, more nuanced?
It's fascinating, and yeah, definitely nuanced, often misunderstood too. Some older studies, like a big U.S. Department of Education meta-review from 2010, found that well-designed online programs could actually match classroom results. They showed no significant differences in achievement compared to face-to-face classes. But, and this is a huge but, that was if they were properly structured and the students were highly engaged. The key insight there is that well-designed and highly engaged are incredibly hard to scale up, especially in an emergency situation like the pandemic. More recent studies, particularly post-pandemic ones, raise a lot more caution flags. Full-time online schools have often underperformed compared to traditional ones. For instance, a 2018 report showed online charter high schools had a 4-year graduation rate of only about 50%, compared to 84% for all public high schools nationally. And even pre-pandemic research often found online college students tended to get lower grades, had higher dropout rates, and sometimes did worse in later courses.
That West Point study you brought up earlier seems to really hammer home that point about the challenges, particularly for independent online learning.
It really does. It poses that kind of sobering question. If these highly disciplined cadets struggle learning economics online versus in person, what does that imply for a typical student who might have less internal motivation or external structure? The consensus now seems pretty clear. Context matters hugely. A lot of the negative data came from that emergency remote teaching scramble, not from carefully planned, fully developed online courses. That said, there's also really strong research highlighting the success of blended approaches, combining online resources with regular teacher support. For example, teachers using online quizzes for practice, maybe freeing up class time for more hands-on projects. They consistently report better engagement and outcomes.
So it really sounds like the consensus isn't about one model just being inherently better than the other one.
Exactly. That's far too simplistic. Both modes have shown success and failure, depending on the study, the context, the students. The key factors really seem to boil down to instructional design, the support systems available for both teachers and students, and of course, the individual learner's needs and circumstances. In the end, just saying online is better or classroom is better misses the whole point. The real challenge maybe isn't just building the tech, it's about building trust and deep connection in a digital space, and making sure the quality of implementation is what truly counts.
That's a really powerful way to frame it. And that understanding leads us, I think, to a much more optimistic view of the future, one that almost certainly lies in blending the best of both worlds, not choosing sides, but building something stronger together.
Yeah, and we're already seeing these hybrid models taking shape. Think about the flipped classroom idea. Students watch lectures or read materials at home, maybe online. Then they spend that valuable class time actually working on problems, collaborating, getting direct guidance from the teacher. The classroom becomes more like a workshop. Or some districts are trying hybrid schedules. Students are on campus certain days, learning remotely on others. That can help with class sizes, offer flexibility, variety.
And presumably, new technologies are going to make these hybrid models even better, more effective.
Absolutely. AI, artificial intelligence, is right at the forefront there. Intelligent tutoring systems can act like personal coaches, adapting questions to each student's level, providing instant tailored feedback. So, an AI algebra tutor might give a struggling student extra practice on fractions, while it challenges a quicker learner with more advanced problems. That frees up the human teacher to focus on deeper conceptual understanding or give individual help where it's most needed. The OECD even talks about AI's potential to essentially revolutionize education by delivering truly personalized learning at scale. And VR, virtual reality, is getting better and cheaper too, offering these incredibly immersive experiences exploring a 3D cell in biology, practicing Spanish with a virtual conversation partner in a simulated market.
And this isn't just for K-12 or university, right? This whole blend plays a massive role in lifelong learning, too.
Oh, hugely important. In today's world, most people need to keep updating their skills throughout their careers. Online platforms are already central for professional training, coding boot camps, management courses, you name it. We're seeing new kinds of credentials emerge too, like digital badges, verifiable proof of specific skills learned, or micromasters, which are shorter online programs that can sometimes count toward the full degree. This flexibility is amazing. Parents can upskill at night, mid-career adults can earn certificates without quitting their jobs. And crucially, these innovations aim to spark curiosity. Educational apps often use gamification points, levels, streaks to make learning feel less like a chore, more like a compelling game. The goal is to help every student pursue what truly fascinates them. Maybe an online ecology course leads to a class project on local conservation, making learning tangible and relevant.
So it's really about making technology an empowering tool, not just a shiny gimmick, using it to enrich the curriculum, personalize the experience, and keep learning deeply engaging.
That's the essence, exactly. These models try to give teachers more time and better data for individual support, while giving students richer, more varied ways to explore subjects. When it's done thoughtfully, blending online and in-person strategies can genuinely enrich the curriculum, personalize learning, and keep it deeply engaging for everyone involved.
Okay, now let's try and connect these big ideas back to the real world and maybe touch on the broader policy implications too. What does this actually look like for people?
Well, for a really vivid example, think about this story of Sarah. She's a high school junior in rural Iowa. Her small school, like many, just couldn't afford a full-time computer science teacher. It wasn't feasible. But in 2021, her district launched a hybrid program. So every morning, Sarah's in her regular classes, in-person English, chemistry, the usual. Then, in the afternoons, she goes to the school's computer lab and logs into an online computer science course. It's taught by a qualified teacher, but one who's based in another state entirely.
Okay, interesting. And how's that working out for Sarah?
She's absolutely thriving, really. She's learning coding languages, building app skills she simply wouldn't have had access to otherwise at her small school. But importantly, she still gets those normal teenage experiences. She plays field hockey for the school team, chats with her friends at lunch. It's not all screen time. And the online part fits her life. If her younger brother is home sick one day, she can just pause the lecture video and catch up later that night. Her mom, Karen, told me, just beaming, she's so excited about computer science now, I actually hear her talking about algorithms at the dinner table. Imagine that. And because of this class, Sarah discovered a passion for the robotics club. And now she's thinking about maybe pursuing engineering in college, opportunities that literally didn't exist for her in her town before this program.
Wow, Sarah's story is fantastic. It just perfectly shows how adaptable education can be, expanding opportunities while keeping that crucial community connection. It's truly enriching her mind, sparking her curiosity through multiple pathways. It proves the solution often isn't either, it's both and, right?
Exactly. And her story also brings us to that global and policy perspective. Because this whole debate, online versus traditional, how to blend them, it directly impacts national budgets, education regulations, huge questions of equity. In the U.S., there's been massive investment in edtech since 2020. Lots of efforts to close those access gaps we talked about.
Yeah.
You have the federal E-rate program helping schools afford internet, stimulus bills funding laptops and Wi-Fi hotspots. States are rewriting laws, training teachers on new tech. Internationally, many developing countries see online learning as this incredible chance to reach remote areas. But without the basic infrastructure, technology can actually make inequalities worse. UNESCO put out a report in 2023 warning that just throwing technology at the problem won't achieve universal education if the basics of their basics. Safe schools, qualified teachers, even textbooks are missing. It's worth remembering many wealthy nations achieved high literacy rates long before the internet even existed.
So it's definitely not a magic wand. Technology alone isn't going to solve everything.
Not at all. There's a real risk that just pouring money into gadgets could divert focus and funds from those fundamental needs. At the same time, though, global organizations like the OECD rightly emphasize equipping students with digital literacy and critical thinking skills. Teaching kids how to use tech responsibly, evaluate online information, collaborate effectively online, these are essential skills now. So policies are being developed around data privacy, sensible screen time limits, the ethical use of AI in education. The clear message really from all sides is that technology needs to